Pop, 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 pop,
Pop Save the USA.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Save the USA. Cole here. It's the second episode. Woo! Applause. Woo! Claps all around, please. We made it. I'm committing to a second episode. It's pretty amazing that we're here. The first episode took me like 3 months to see to fruition. And it's not perfect, but that is the beauty in it. And this episode won't be perfect either. But that is also beautiful. I'm learning as I go. After listening back to my first episode, I have a lot of critiques of myself, but I'm trying not to dwell on them and instead learn from them. I know with time that I'll become more well spoken on the mic. Anyways, let's get into more recent happenings with me and just get some tidbits about my life. So, January was not the best start of the year for me. But I'm looking forward to realigning myself from the horrors of the deep winter. Midwest kind of had a snowmageddon moment, and my car was stuck for a day, couldn't go to work. In terms of the rough part, I threw out my back at the gym doing Romanian deadlifts, and I couldn't walk for, I want to say 4 days. It wasn't pretty. It was actually really rough. I was not doing great mentally. But I'm doing a lot better now. It seems that I have healed pretty well, but I do fear how this is going to bite me in the butt when I get older. This week, my back has been pinching a little bit on the opposite side of where I hurt it. Don't know if that's just the back overcompensating, but we'll see. I should probably see a physical therapist, but not exactly in the right state of funds for that at the moment. Unfortunately, I had tickets to go see Grace Helbig that night, and I had to miss the Grace Helbig show, which, that blows. That really freaking sucked. I honestly was probably most mad about that. That is my millennial queen. Luckily, I was able to give my ticket away to a fellow fan, so that rocks, but still was very sad not to make that show. I find her comedy pretty funny. Oh, and my car decided to surprise me with a $1,000 repair, so that was pretty. All the spark plugs needed replaced, and the coil needed replaced. And a treatment was recommended by the manufacturer for the engine at my mileage from my car manufacturer. So a real heavy onslaught of beautiful, fun car problems came my way that night. Not the same night as my back injury, obviously, but like a week and a half later, 2 weeks later. So yeah, January was just not a pretty month in general. Some other silly things have been happening that I don't really necessarily want to talk about on the mic, but I had a little bit of a mental breakdown that I think was spurred by my back injury. I'm just really upset about the state of the world, and I feel kind of stuck in life at the moment. But I know if I work on the art I want to be making, it will propel me somewhere I like to be. So that's why I'm doing this. Hopecore is the only choice for me right now, and as a friend put it, having hope is radical at this point in the US. And lastly, fuck ICE. If you're listening to this and support any of the vile and repulsive actions being used against immigrants within this country by ICE, you can click off, leave this podcast, fuck ICE. So, on to more uplifting things. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Doja Cat and her most recent album, V. Being her 5th studio album, it was highly anticipated by her audience as she had quite a tumultuous promotion cycle with Scarlet and Scarlet 2 Cloud, but still very successful. Comparing it to V and its life cycle can provide for an interesting conversation. Most of all, I'm curious about the artistry and promotion of V while analyzing the public reaction and where we lie several months after the album's release. From there, I want to dream up the next era for Miss Cat and formulate some ideas as to where she could be headed next with her sound and what imagery she could utilize going into her next project. So to start off, this is not a history of Doja Cat's career, but I want to give a short history of her beginnings to at least start off so we have some background information. So growing up, Doja's family socialized her through a lifestyle not very common in the majority of the United States. She was born in Los Angeles and then moved to New York directly for 5 years, and then back to California. From 8 to 12, she lived in a Hindu commune in Santa Monica, led by jazz musician John Coltrane's wife, Alice Coltrane. Doja found life to be more restrictive than she liked there, but she learned a lot about dance and music. Eventually, the family left to move back to the LA area, and Doja continued to work on her talents in the performing arts. She began making music on SoundCloud as a teenager, and then she went to an arts high school, so she was kind of already set up to be forming a career in music from an early age. At 17, she was signed to Dr. Luke's record label, Kimosabe, a subsidiary of RCA. From there, she ended up making her first EP, Purr, in 2013, and her first album, Amala, in 2018. Months after the release of Amala, she was playing around with beats and made a silly song called Moo, which totally went viral on Twitter. It was everywhere. As a Twitter gay,
stop being a faggot.
You could not escape that song when it came out. This is personally how I discovered her. The song is tongue-in-cheek, and it's a rap song about cows with lots of humorous language relating to herself and cows. The inspiration for this song was literally just a skimpy cow outfit she was wearing at the moment. Doja has a powerful knack for making catchy songs on a whim without any kind of deep inspiration, and I love that about her. It became a huge internet hit to say the least, and I still listen to it every once in a while to this day.
Stop being a faggot.
The beat has almost of a lo-fi quality to it, which, with its funny sound effects and lyrics, it's honestly just built to be an internet classic. After that, she went to release some huge hit albums with songs that include things like Kiss Me More featuring SZA and Woman, both absolutely huge. So from here, I'd like to move on to the promotion period and the reception of Scarlet. Scarlet was Doja Cat's angry rap era. She's always been a rapper and a pop artist. She combines the two artistries in a stunning 21st century kind of way. As a comment I saw once puts it, she's both the artist and the featured artist in her discography. Going into the Scarlet era, Doja was already intending for this album to be predominantly rap. She had been planting it on Twitter for a bit. In her build-up to the release of the album, she was interviewed saying, "These 3 songs came out. These were the first 3 songs I made. There's a second half where I went to Malibu, and I made it all the music in 10 days. That half is very different from the first half." Basically, here she's saying that the vibe switches partway through the album based on location change and recent events at the time. And we'll touch on those recent events. Part of the reason for the location change could be in reason due to some controversy she had gotten a bit into earlier before the promotions. While Doja had definitely had some other controversial moments before this time in her career, mainly in 2020, I'm going to take more time to focus on the ones closer to the release of Scarlet. Things started to bubble up at the end of 2022 when it came out that she was in some kind of romantic relationship with the criticized Twitch streamer Jay Cyrus, infamously known for being accused of emotional abuse and manipulation. Jay Cyrus was primarily targeting female followers and moderators of his Twitch channel who were significantly younger than him.
Oh, brother, this
Yikes.
guy stinks!
Definitely not a good look for Doja, that's for sure. He apologized, but it was half-assed, and it's half-assed in the way one could probably have assumed from a white guy Twitch streamer.
Bruh.
After this moment in 2022, tension started to hit a peak when Doja was found taking some jabs at her fan base that labeled themselves as kittens, saying on Twitter, "If you call yourself a kitten or fucking kittens, that means you need to get off your phone and get a job and help your parents with the house." It was definitely a disconnection moment with her fans. Um, and it didn't come off the best for her, that's for sure. Uh, Along with this, a fan was pleading on Twitter for Doja to say, "I love you," to her fan base. Doja then responded to them on Twitter saying, "I don't though, cause I don't even know y'all." I think there's definitely some validity to this sentiment. She truly doesn't have to know every individual, but this statement does come off a tad smart. After this, she then labeled another fan a crazy person, after said crazy person decided to highlight how her fans have been with her through thick and thin, which isn't the most persuasive thing to say to an individual like Doja. However, her response can feel a little overkill in retrospect. It feels a little bit like fighting fire with fire, but I can't deny that there isn't a sense of parasociality emanating from the conversation that could be pondered. She also had a bit of an alt-right fashion moment where she was seen sporting a t-shirt that pictured the heavily right-wing comedian Sam Hyde gripping a rifle. I think the response to this was valid from her fans. Like, I think you can be upset about that. The response from Doja Cat, though, to her critics was to repost the photo, but this time with Sam Hyde edited out through Photoshop, and it was paired with a caption filled with some rolling eye emojis. A tad bratty if you were to ask me, but at this point, the response felt a little expected. To continue her promotions, Doja Cat decided to host a listening party for the album for a select group of fans. The eventgoers saw Doja behind a glass panel where she wore a devilish hat and was painting on a canvas. At one point, she turns the glass panel that separated her from her fans to start spray painting the words, "I do love you," the love being from a heart symbol. Fans cheered back, "We love you," to which she responded by writing "Thank you" on the glass. Quite tongue-in-cheek, as per usual for Doja. It's important to note that in an interview in the month before her fully released album, Doja gave some more context to her thoughts and actions. So when people become engaged with someone that they don't even know on the internet, they kind of take ownership over that person. They think that person belongs to them in some sense. And when that person changes drastically, there's a shock response that is almost uncontrollable. I've accepted that's what happens, which is what Doja said. After noticing a drop in followers, Doja then stated that she felt free and could reconnect with the people who really matter and love her for who she is and not for who she was. Analyzing all of this could lead into a lot of different conversations regarding ownership and parasocial relationships. It's sticky territory for sure. Doja Cat puts this into question. How much of what she says should we take seriously? And that's probably what she wants. Women in pop are expected to be PR friendly and maintain a clean image. Tainting your image as a pop star could lead to your downfall very quickly, or it at least used to. I think Doja could be making a question for feminist ideals in the music industry. Why shouldn't our stars be raunchy and unforgiving? The men do it all the time with little to no repercussion. It's certainly something to ponder, but maybe we should ask the men in the white supremacist chat rooms she plays in what they think. LOL. What a sticky situation. So then Scarlet finally releases, and everything she said about the album was true. The album was all rap, and it's pretty clear that she had set a foot forward to address idol worship and her private life versus public life. The album sonically had a more masculine sound and less of the glittery pop sound that she was known for. While making the album, she was listening to a lot of music she grew up listening to. Artists such as Erykah Badu, John Coltrane, wonder why, and lots of 90s hip-hop and 2010s rap. It was clear that these were big influences, especially songs like Fuck the Girls and Skull and Bones. But there were also some heavy R&B moments, with Agora Hills, which sampled Troop's All I Do Is Think of You, and slower-paced R&B song interspersed with rap verses similar to the likes of Coco and Claire Claire's discography, famous for the Valley Girl accent found in their music. I always thought it was kind of odd that so many media outlets saw her only as a pop star. Her biggest songs up until this point may have been mainly pop, but Doja had always had rap verses intermingling within the songs. Artists like Nicki Minaj, Lil Nas X, Rico Nasty, and many others have floated between the genres. It feels like the media really just didn't want to do the research on her. Rules from Hot Pink is a great example of her rap abilities, and one of my favorite songs of hers, to be honest. Anger, though, is a great motivator, and it certainly motivated Doja to rap her ass off on this album. When the mainstream media outlets reviewed the album, they seemed to have mixed thoughts, but I wouldn't call any of the reviews straight up bad. Pitchfork called Scarlet an uneven album that is accomplished but gets bogged down in reactive and repetitive songs. Rolling Stone took a more middle-of-the-line approach, saying, Pop's ultimate edgelord is seeing red and she'll be damned if she doesn't get the last word. And popularity be damned, she does get the last word, as Paint the Town Red becomes a huge radio hit. I remember hearing it for months non-stop on the local radio, and fun fact, the song samples Dionne Warwick's Walk On By. Paint the Town Red was one of the 3 songs produced before she made a location change in the making of the album. The other 2 were Attention and Demons, and you can kind of hear that difference within the rest of the album, which many publications mention hearing that difference as well.
Man, this happened 1, 2, 3 times too much.
Despite the criticisms, it was very successful still. Not as big as Hot Pink or Planet Her, but Scarlet did manage to reach number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. I myself did enjoy the album. I don't find myself coming back to it a lot, but I do love Agora Hills. Something about that beat is so addicting, and I'm a bit of a Coco and Claire Claire stan. It makes sense for me that I like that song is what I'm saying. The music video for it was also pretty slay. From this point forward, I think it's less important to focus on Scarlet's post-release promotions, and now shift a focus towards the buildup of V and what that looked like. Heading into the album promotions for V, Doja was seeming to take more of a traditional approach in the promotion for the album. The marketing that happened during Scarlet's cycle seemed to be overshadowed by the heated discourse being stirred around the internet, which the discourse itself seemed to be the marketing for the album more than anything. This time around, V's promotions centered less around Doja's critical moments and more around the vibe she was going for in the album as a whole. In the pre-release promotions for the album, Doja did several little promotional moments to give it some hype. The era started with Doja partnering with Airbnb for an intimate living room session where she sang several fan favorite songs and a select few songs she hadn't released yet. And this was to a very small gathering of her fans. The space was said to be very intimate and was stylized with her grandmother's paintings. I think that's like really cute actually. How warm. I would have loved to have been there. There was some other teasing that happened, such as tweets that hinted towards the making of the album, plus a post of an unordered and incomplete track list, some changes to her social media bios, and some more posts of snippets of tracks, so on and so forth. Nothing out of the ordinary. Honestly, this type of promo pop fans are really used to. It's typical fodder isn't the right word, slop isn't the right word, because it's more refined than that. But it's the typical stuff that pop fans are used to.
Another one.
In March of 2025, she eventually confirmed the name of the album and started sharing some visual elements of the album. From then through April, she then goes on to share some more stuff from the track list, some more previews of songs, and did some live streams where she shared some more snippets. That woman really loves a live stream. I don't know what it is about her, but I guess it's just built into her blood.
Yep.
After this, Doja continued to hype up the album by sharing some Instagram photos that collaborated with Marc Jacobs for a very 80s influenced marketing campaign. Lots of shoulder pads, pinstripe blazers, feathers, big hair, pointy heels for sure. She was leaning more into that glamorous and luxurious element for V. Strictly influenced from the 80s. Then in July, her corny self tweets, "L'album est complet." Croissant emoji. Confirming the album to be done. Alongside this, she deleted all her tweets aside from the ones where she was teasing the album. From there, we eventually find out that Jack Antonoff and Blood Orange will be some of the collaborators on the album. And depending on the pop fan, that can be really hype. That can be someone's album. Like, Jack Antonoff pulls in a lot of people, and Blood Orange is getting up there as well. As we move to August, we see the launch of V Hotline. It was a number you could call to get a preview of the song Jealous Type, which ended up being the lead single. Or you could text the number to get some updates about promotions. This has been pretty typical within mainstream music lately. I personally have been getting updates from Addison Rae and Pink Pantheress.
Stop being a faggot.
It's one of those types of promotional tools where I'm just kind of like, what the hell? Sure. In reality, anybody can get these nowadays. I think these types of promotions didn't work before, like in the early 2000s, early 2010s, because people were still using minutes. People were still paying by the text message. So most people are on the limited plans nowadays, so it works out better. Later in August, Jealous Type finally releases after what felt like teasing it forever. It was 80s goodness, to be honest. Very reminiscent of Prince and Paula Abdul, if you were to ask me. There's probably some Janet Jackson mixed in there as well. And the mood of the video was just straight up 80s. It was Doja channeling the 80s for this comeback. To further envelop Doja into that 80s vibe, MAC Cosmetic then announces Doja as their new global brand ambassador. MAC rose to fame as a cosmetics company in the 80s, and it can definitely be said that Doja is known for turning a makeup look. So, overall, I think this is a really smart partnership between the two. The partnership saw Doja starring in a global campaign for MAC products, making the company one of the central partners of her rollout. Her MAC debut emphasized the heavy fashion and beauty integration in her new era. This long-term partnership saw Doja starring in a global campaign for MAC's products, making the company one of the central partners for this album rollout. Her MAC debut emphasized the heavy fashion and beauty integration in this new era. I actually think they might be selling a lip kit in collaboration on the MAC website right now at the moment of recording this podcast. Who knows if they'll still be selling it by the time this comes out, but if you want that iconic Doja Cat red lip from the V era, you can get it at MAC. I guess there was also a physical in-person telephone booth at one point. I didn't hear about this when it was happening, but I suppose V-Phone was a pop-up in New York City and Hollywood where the phone was picked up and it would play a preview of one of the songs off the album. Pop stars love to do some kind of public installation lately that promotes their albums. Katy Perry's done it. Summer Walker's done it. I think even Omar Apollo did it. I can't remember exactly what all of them did, but that's not important because this episode isn't about them. Right before the release of the album at the 2025 MTV VMAs, Doja Cat also ate a MAC lipstick.
Man.
It was very much a shock value moment, but it kind of came out of nowhere. I also remember her doing multiple times throughout the evening. It was confirmed later that the lipstick was actually a mix of chocolate and fondant made by some famous Instagram chocolatier.
Bruh.
It was definitely a collab moment with MAC, as it was to promote the shade Lady Danger. I know we shouldn't be eating makeup, but I honestly think it would have been a lot more rock and roll if she had actually eaten real lipstick. I remember thinking to myself after seeing it for the first time that it was odd that it didn't get on her teeth. Food for thought, or thought for food, I suppose. Okay, some other little things also happened, but honestly, they aren't that notable. More little sneak peeks, behind the scenes stuff, blah blah blah. I'm not trying to be mean here. It's all in good and dandy, but it's stuff that you would expect from the most mainstream artists to be doing for their promotions. Moving on. On September 26th, the album was officially released with Gorgeous as the second single in its music video. Fabulous! The album is good. I like Gorgeous a lot, and I think it's a fun little ditty. Seeing the visuals that replicate 80s visuals is really fun, and the styling of the Gorgeous logo is clearly referenced to Revlon and L'Oreal. Seeing Anokiai and Alex Kansani, who are beloved supermodels by the younger public, was also a fun little Easter egg. V debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200, earning 57,000 album equivalent units in its first week. The album had high pure sales and was touted as a commercial success, but it reportedly received less streams than Scarlet, which has led some people to speculate about how it's resonated with her core audience and its staying power as a piece of art. V's slower start has led to many debates on social media as to whether this era was a flop or if it was underpromoted. In my opinion, I don't think it was underpromoted whatsoever. I think a lot of smart partnerships were made during this cycle, and a lot of typical social media strategies were enacted. I think when we compare it to the promotions of her last album, V has just put its energy into more traditional promotional avenues that might cause a little or a lot less aggravation with her fan base. Many say that V is a return to form, as it was Doja's return to the pop-driven sound that blew her up in the first place on TikTok. The album is high quality. The album is built for the radio, and it has beautiful imagery. Hell, she got super producer Jack Antonoff for the album, but unfortunately there's just something that seems missing from this. That, or maybe she's flip-flopping on her audience too rapidly, or possibly this sound is just a little too late for the market. Let's ponder these questions for a moment. If I'm to think about what could be missing from this album, the first thing that comes to mind is her variation and experimentation. Doja Cat really dedicates herself to the 80s love letter she's writing on this album. I can respect that, but her previous albums have had quite various sounds that work well together. On Planet Her, we saw her playing with Afrobeats on Woman and some bubbly, funky pop with Kiss Me More. Scarlet had hard-hitting rap songs like Attention, mixed with the Valley Girl rap of Agora Hills, on the same album. Quite different sounds, but it worked. The track list of V starts to feel a little bloated compared to the rest of her discography, when every song has some sort of 80s flair to it. She also tends to rely heavily on the pop chorus plus rap coda formula a lot. It's what she's great at, so it makes sense, but you notice it with many of the songs on V. As for flip-flopping with her audience, it can definitely be said that this has been done one of two ways. The first flip-flop is with her marketing. Scarlet was a tumultuous time for Doja and her team in relation to her fan outrage. Per our conversation earlier in the episode, I think most of the marketing done for Scarlet was done through making controversy with her fan base. When the promo for V comes along, everything seems to be disseminating a lot more traditionally. The tactics for fan engagement was a lot less rage-baity. Whether that was intended to or not, I don't know. But damn, did the promo cycle feel a lot more relaxed this time around. The other way she flip-flopped was with her actual sounds. I'm not sure if people were expecting Doja to go for another pop-forward record after the hullabaloo around her doing a rap album for Scarlet. With Doja saying that her pop albums were her sellout albums, I think it's safe to say that maybe Doja's return to form was more so a return to selling out from some perspectives. I don't personally find this to be the case, as I think Doja cares a lot about her art at this point in her career, but I can totally see a person who doesn't engage with everything she does possibly thinking this. As for the 80s pop sound of the album, I think it's definitely possible that synths, drum machines, saxophone solos, and gated reverb could be a bit tiresome on the ears now for younger folks, especially those that lived through the mid-2010s and early 2020s. In the 2010s, Stranger Things took center stage in the monoculture, and Vaporwave was having a huge moment. Jack Antonoff has been huge since the 2010s, and he is certainly known for having an 80s influence with his sound and production. Dua Lipa and The Weeknd have been propelled in their careers for huge hits that have 80s influences. Even artists like Greta Van Fleet and Chappell Roan have been after this 80s vibe for a bit now. It feels like in 2025, this era of 80s nostalgia is waning a bit. People are a little tired of it. And I think maybe Doja just is a little late to the party. Just a little. I'm not saying it's bad to have 80s as your aesthetic, but it has run its course for a bit.
Man, this happened 1, 2, 3 times too much.
So how would I remedy this for her next album? What direction could I see Miss Doja going in the future? And what are the creative directorial ideas I have in mind for her? So let's dive into that. As we head into the post-promotion life of V, we start to wonder what Doja Cat might be thinking about in regards to her next era. What aesthetics does she have in mind? What sonic influence is she looking towards? What kind of art is she ingesting? At this moment in time, we really don't have much to go off of. Her most recent interviews don't really ask about what might be next for her yet. News outlets and journalists are still focused in the promotions for V, which, rightfully so, it hasn't even been half a year since V has been released. With all this empty knowledge, we have plenty of room to let our own imaginations run free, right? So let's do that. Here are some ideas that I've been ruminating on that could be interesting to see Doja Cat adopt in her next musical showing. When I contemplate the sounds that I think could be interesting for Doja Cat to explore in her next album, several thought bubbles start to emanate. I think the rise of 2016 and the mid-2010s coming back, we could see a lot of artists possibly reflecting on this time in their lives. Because of this, I could see Doja Cat maybe dipping back into the sounds of earlier projects, such as Purr and Amala. Regardless of if these may or may not have been cash grab eras, I think Doja Cat can have nuance to want to look back to the older works of hers and possibly find some inspiration in it still. From these early eras, I could see her being influenced by the psychedelic nature of Purr. I would love for her to dip back into the more atmospheric, dreamy sounds, but maybe with a spin of more poppy, mid-2010s electronic dance pop and EDM mixed into it. Think if, like, Zed's Clarity had a baby with some vaporwave. Along with this, I would love for her to lean into some more kooky sounds found within Kesha's most recent music. Seeing Doja do a sound like Kesha's Joyride, but with some rapping on it, would be cool as hell. As for her voice, I'd love to see a mixture of singing and rapping happening in her music as per usual, but to add in something new, I would love to see her take on like a pop punk singer voice in EDM. I'm thinking specifically like Hayley Williams and Stay the Night by Zed. She really did her big one on that song. Hayley Williams is the type of singer that I would love to see Doja interpret a little bit. Add a little bit of Kesha's vocal fry in there too, and let's see what happens. Let's do some experimentation. What I think is super important here is for what producers she'll be working with. As legendary as some producers are for V, I don't think we'll be keeping many of them for the next album. The only guy I think I'd like to take from this era is George Daniel, aka a key member of the 1975, aka Charlie XCX's husband. He's been doing some fun electro house work recently, and I think he could add something interesting to this. Along with Mr. Daniel, I think Danny L. Harl could bring the psychedelic sound that we're looking to tap into. He tapped into that sound a lot for his electronic stuff on his most recent album, and I think it would be super cool to see if his interpretation of adding some vaporwave-esque sounds to the hypothetical album we're making here. To continue this idea of zoning out sounds, tapping into that ray of light Madonna moment could be interesting, but just subtly. And I think that could be done by adding Elvira, who was one of the main producers of Addison, by Addison Rae, of course. And lastly, I think adding an up-and-coming producer in pop could allow for the album to truly blossom. And that, I would love to bring in Zone. He has notably worked on Demi Lovato's newest album and also did the production for Joyride. See what we're doing here? See what we're doing here? He would totally bring that electropop, and I think Zone could learn a lot and create some cool things with these other producers. As for aesthetics and visuals, there are many directions this could go. For the V Tour, Doja Cat has been tapping into a lot of kooky looks in particular. Some of them border on like a sexy, slutty, harlequinish clown vibe. It's a very crazy, wacky version of the 80s on the stage for her. I think this works for her. I don't think we can go with a totally clown vibe for her, as I think she would find that a bit corny, and frankly, I think her audience would find it a little cringe.
Bruh.
But I do think we can lean into being silly with our aesthetic still. When I think of what could work for this sound, my mind leans heavily into the rave culture where I think specifically some cybergoth influences could be really cool. Lots of candy. Candy being the friendship bracelets exchanged between music lovers at raves. If you don't know what it is or the practice behind it, I recommend looking into it. It's a really interesting practice. With this styling, I'd love to see it mixed with the stylings of like the Fame monster Gaga, especially like the latex and the crazy hair. I'm also thinking of the styling of like Scream and Shout's music video from will.i.am and Britney Spears. What I'm picturing, what I'm imagining, is Doja wearing something akin to what Britney was wearing in that video, but maybe make it like neon green and like make her hair neon pink. Give her some chunky sunglasses and a bunch of candy all over her body. And when I mean all over her body, I'm talking arms, legs, and maybe even some giant candy around her waist. And add like some layerings of fur accoutrements and some wacky PVC neon see-through accessories. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I'm seeing the vision. It'll be wacky, but it's because it's kind of supposed to be. And in that, I mean it. Doja could use this era to lean into the meanderings of what it means to reflect on a time that might feel cringe to oneself. What does it mean when a pop star embraces and accepts her own cringe? Doja has talked a lot about feeling like she hates her old art, and that's a feeling I can relate to as well. I mean, as an artist, you kind of have to hate something first to love it. I'd be curious to know what she'd be like when she embraces some aspects of her old art, but also expands upon them in a way that could be more interesting for her. I know myself, I've been tapping into that more recently, and I've been finding some joy in it, so maybe she could as well. When we lean back into aesthetics and sounds of the past that feel fake through a more enlightened lens that doesn't feel like you're talking down to yourself, I think we can learn a lot about ourselves. It could possibly even feel healing, and I know this idea is quite out there, but I think Doja is a figurehead of chronically online culture, welcoming in the positives of what the internet has brought her through music could be an interesting way to engage with her artwork and to grow as a musician. Of course, at the end of the day, this is all my own ideation. I don't expect Doja to be doing any of this, but it's fun to speculate and make my own ideas for what her future creation could look like. Seeing how Doja goes into her next era, though, for her own creative fruition, is what I want to see more than anything. When an artist is tapping into their truest self and molding their viewpoint into one that matters most to them, that's when you get the greatest art. That is when the greatest art is made. I hope that Doja's able to do that for her next album. Of course, if you, Doja, are listening, which I know you totally are, you're more than welcome to contact me regarding creative direction and consulting for this new phase of pop stardom. I would be more than happy to lend a helping hand while letting your truest vision shine through. Hit me up. You know my Instagram.
Oh, brother, this
Faggot.
stinks!
Doja Cat's career, as it stands, has been one of many accolades and well-deserved recognition. Whether you find her to be a cringy edgelord who spends her free time trolling, or you find her to be an artist that acts upon impulse without apology, I think it's undeniable that Doja has a unique sense of musicality. This far into her journey, she will undeniably always have some sort of fan base that is dedicated to digesting her art. 5 albums deep into her career has led her down a path of volatility in the limelight, especially on the internet, but her volatility seems to only help her in her mainstream radio. Perhaps this is what we can take away from this episode. Hot Pink and Planet Her cemented Doja as a hitmaker. Scarlet showed the world that she was multifaceted, and V told us that she makes art for her and her only. Her 6th studio album will be one that defines her career, but does she want to be defined by just one of these qualities, or can she harness a sound, image, and viewpoint that amplifies all of these qualities at once? And on that note, thank you for listening to today's episode of Pop Save the USA. This one took a while to put together, but honestly, it was kind of fun to make. I was doing so much research about the promotions for Scarlet and V, and surprisingly, there was a lot of websites talking about these promotions. It was a challenge in focus, but introducing the mixtape series has helped me better focus on the creation of the mainline episodes. I have a long list of ideas for the next main ep, but if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear them. If you'd like to keep up with the pod's activities and see some silly music and pop culture memes, you can follow at PopSaveTheUSA on Instagram. I'll see you in the next episode, and until then, have a lovely time. Goodbye.
Pop Save the USA.